I was not sure what I wanted to do my speech on a week ago. I wanted to do it on something that you, my audience, would be interested in, but I also wanted to do it on something that seemed important to me. And since we are all currently living in America, and because I'm fascinated with the American government system, I decided to do my speech on the three branches of government. As a child, I was obsessed with Schoolhouse Rock, which is where I learned a lot of my foundational math, science, grammar, history, and government. Included in the Schoolhouse Rock lineup of songs are songs about the American Revolution, the Declaration of Independence, how a bill becomes a law, and most relevant to my speech, one about the Constitution and one about the separation of powers.
In 1787, I'm told our founding fathers did agree to write a list of principles for keeping people free. The USA was just starting out a whole brand new country, and so our people spelled it out, the things that we should be. And they put those principles down on paper and called it the Constitution. And it's been helping us run our country ever since then. The first part of the Constitution is called the Preamble and tells what those founding fathers set out to do. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
That is just part of one of Schoolhouse Rock's most famous songs. And although these songs are idealistic and simplistic, they are the first time I remember learning, really enjoying learning, and the first time I remember learning about government specifically. That song was about the preamble of the Constitution, and the Constitution is where the three branches of government get their power, which along with how they are set up, how they work together, and the players within each branch is the focus of my speech. The Constitution states that there are three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The first article of the Constitution lays out the branch of government, the legislative branch of government. The second article describes the executive, and the third article outlines the judicial branch. The legislative branch of government is called Congress. It is bicameral, meaning it has two parts. The reason for this is the writers had different opinions on how the legislative branch should be organized. The larger states wanted representation based on population, while the smaller ones wanted each state to have the same number of representatives. They eventually decided on our Congress, which is part of the Great Compromise. The two parts of Congress that resulted are the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is the populous House of Congress, meaning the number of representatives in each state has in the House is based on the number of people in that state. The Senate has 2 representatives for each state. The writers of the Constitution anticipated that there would eventually be more states and more people in each state. This is why in Section 2 of Article 1 of the Constitution it is stated that there is to be a census every 10 years in order to readjust the representation in the House. No matter how small, each state has 1 representative in the House. However, after each census, the House passes a reappointment act redistributing the representatives based on population. In 1929, the Reappointment Act fixed the number of representatives at 435, and in the most recent Reappointment Act, Ohio lost 2 of its representatives, decreasing from 18 to 16, which forced Ohio to be redistricted. This can sometimes result in gerrymandering, which is one of my favorite terms from AP US government, but not because it is a good thing, simply because I like how the word sounds, and the concept is interesting to me. The definition of this word, according to dictionary.com, is the dividing of a state, country, etc. into election districts as to give one political party a majority in many districts while concealing the voting strength of the other party into as few districts as possible. The representatives in the House are elected every 2 years. In order to be elected into the House of Representatives, one must be at least 25, have been a U.S. citizen for 7 years, and must be a resident of the state in which they want to represent. The Senate rules for who can be a senator are a little different. The Senate is laid out in Section 3, Article 1 of the Constitution. Senators are elected every 6 years, and there are always 2 for each state. In order to be a senator, one must be 30, have been a U.S. citizen for at least 9 years, and be a resident of the state in which they want to represent. Neither senators nor House members have a limit on the number of terms they can serve. The Senate and the House work together to make the laws of the United States. They also have the sole federal power to declare war, borrow money on behalf of the country, print and regulate money, collect and make taxes, regulate commerce, determine the naturalization and bankruptcy processes, lay out the punishment for counterfeiting money, and make post offices and roads, promote progress in the arts and sciences, and many other responsibilities listed in Sections 8, 9, and 10 of Article 1 of the Constitution. These parts of Congress also check and balance each other. One example of this is that the House has the power of impeachment, but the Senate conducts the trial. In order for a bill to get out of Congress, it must be passed along to the President for both his approval. Both the House and the Senate must vote to pass it. Article 2 of the Constitution is about the executive branch of government. This branch is headed by the President and the Vice President. The presidency is a 4-year term, and as stated in the 22nd Amendment, no one person can be elected for president more than twice or serve more than 10 years. This provides that if a vice president takes over for a previous president after halfway through the term, they have the opportunity to run for and get elected president twice more. In order to run for president, the candidate must be a natural-born citizen of the United States, must be 35, and must have lived in the country for 14 years. So far, we have not had a female president. The second article also establishes the Electoral College, which is how the president is elected. Each state gets as many electoral votes as they have in Congress, as they have Congresspeople, members of the House and the Senate. This system of electing the president can provide for the president losing the popular vote but being elected president, as in 2000 with George Bush. Section 2, Article 2 of the Constitution lists some of the powers that the president has, such as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the power to make treaties on behalf of the country, etc. Section 3 states that there should be a State of the Union presented to Congress from time to time, and Section 4 states that a president can be impeached. It is the overall job of the executive branch to carry out the laws. The last branch of government is the judicial branch. It is laid out in Article 3 of the Constitution. The judicial branch consists of the Supreme Court, along with many other federal courts. The judges on these courts are appointed, not elected, and their term is a life sentence, or they can choose to retire. The president appoints federal judges, and the job of the judicial branch is to evaluate laws and determine if they are constitutional. These 3 branches of government check and balance each other. The legislative branch must vote to pass a bill, and then the president can either sign or veto it. If the president chooses to veto the bill, Congress can overrule this veto with a 2/3 majority vote. If the bill is signed and becomes a law, then the judicial branch can determine that it is constitutional or unconstitutional with a ruling. Another example of checks and balances is that a president appoints federal court judges, but they must be confirmed by the Senate. Schoolhouse Rock also has a video to clarify this concept.
Circus someday, people will say it's a fine one, son. Gonna have a 3-ring circus someday. People will come from miles around. Lions, tigers, acrobats, and jugglers and clowns galore. Tightrope walkers, pony riders, elephants, and so much more. Guess I got the idea right here at school. Felt my like a fool when they called my name, talking about the government and how it's arranged, divided in three like a circus. Ring one, executive, two is legislative, that's Congress. Ring three, judiciary, see, it's kinda like my circus. Step right up and visit ring number one. The show's just begun, meet the president. I am here to see that the laws get done. The ringmaster of the government. On with the show! Hurry, hurry, hurry to ring number two. See what they do in the Congress. Passing laws and juggling bills. Oh, it's quite a thrill in the Congress. Focus your attention on ring number three. The judiciary's in the spotlight. The courts take the laws and they tame the crimes, balancing the wrongs with your rights. No one part can be more powerful than any other is. Each controls the other, you see, and that's what we call checks and balance. Says, well, everybody's act is part of the show, and no one's job is more important. The audience is kinda like the country, you know, keeping an eye on their performance. Ring one, executive, two is legislative, that's Congress. Ring three, judiciary, see, it's kinda like my circus. My circus, I'm gonna have a three-ring circus someday. People will say it's a fine one, son. But until I get it, I'll do my thing. With government, it's got three rings.
Are there any questions? Thank you.